Working now?
It is
Oh,
working now. We're
God.
live.
Sweet.
We're live on YouTube.
Guess you got to pay attention now.
Yeah. All right. Let me start the record. I just burst in on you.
Working now?
Yeah. Let's see here. Record on this computer. This is Male Entrepreneur Podcast, episode number 143, and we're live in 3, 2. All right, welcome back to the Male Entrepreneur, the podcast for men who win, with your host Purdeep Sangha. Purdeep, how you doing today, man?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm doing great. It's nice to see or hear you be chipper as well.
Yeah, I'm feeling better. We had a good conversation in the last episode, and I'm ready to rock and roll with this one.
Awesome, man.
So, what do we got lined up for those listeners today?
Okay, so let's talk about what it means to be a business leader. I think one of the biggest things as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and even as an executive, I think a lot of times we think that our biggest value is in our specific skill, right? So if we're good at marketing, that's our biggest value. Or if we're good at that, that's our biggest value. But your biggest value as a business owner or an executive is being a business leader. Unless you're actually getting paid directly for that expertise, like marketing, that's a different story. But if you're leading a team, if you're leading an organization, you're running your business, you need to be the best business leader you can. That is fundamentally the most important thing. And again, similar to what other guys ask me, they always ask me, okay, so what does it mean to be a business leader or a good business leader? What do I need to do? What do I need to focus on? Because there's so many different things when it comes to leadership. And and I'm going to speak about this because I actually studied formal leadership throughout university, for example, and in my MBA. What does it mean to be a leader? There's so many different things where people talk about situational style leadership. They talk about all the characteristics, like you got to have honesty, you got to have good communication skills, all of that academic crap, right? But let's talk about the real stuff that makes a good leader. Let's talk about the real stuff that if you put your time and effort into this, you will grow your business. And if you use this in your personal life, you'll actually have a better relationship. You'll be a better father, and you'll be the guy that everybody admires pretty much. But these are the characteristics. These are the things that you need to focus on. Put your time, money, and effort into developing these skills for yourself to be that best leader and actually make more money. So that's about it.
I'm going to start this episode off by giving you a little bit of kudos. I've worked with you and your team at varying degrees for the last year, a little bit more than a year now. And I have worked with lots of different business leaders out there. I've never worked with anybody who's on top and like on the ball. And I want to say inspiring, but almost to a scary degree where I'm just like, where the hell does Purdeep get all of this energy from? But that's from the time that I've been working with you, from day one, it was like this, and it's been consistent. The organization, the inspiration, and the sheer awe that I have for what you pull off has it's not something that I've ever experienced working with any of the other clients that I've ever worked with. And like I said, sometimes it's even scary. I'm just like, how does Purdeep do this?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, man. That actually just made my day. So you're going to make up for all that other crappy stuff that I'm going to look forward to for the rest of the day now. So, but you know what, you take it down a tangent, and I appreciate this because this is actually very important. I personally learned this from my parents. I learned a lot of these fundamental principles, how to stay on top of things, how to be a better leader, how to treat your people right from my parents. I was just speaking to our accountant actually that does our agricultural business accounting. And she said, you know what? Everybody I talk to, because she talks to our employees for payroll and stuff, she's like, everybody wants to work for you guys. She's like, and I can see why. You actually treat your people well. You demand a lot, you expect a lot, you hold people accountable, which is just as important. People want to do good work and they want you to hold them accountable to it. But she's like, you treat them very well, not like all the other agricultural businesses in the area, for example. And it was because we got a lot of people saying, we want to leave them, we want to come to you. So it's very interesting. But I truly, I would say I get that from my parents. I had to grow up to learn how to be a leader. So from an entrepreneurial perspective, if we take a look at the three buckets of what makes up an entrepreneur, here's what it is. Right. The first one is the ability to make money, the wheeler and the dealer, the guy that can see something and say, I can make money from that. That's one bucket. Then there's the guy that's like the creative genius that is like the architect that can put together ideas and, and say, okay, I can build this product or service. The other one is the leader, which basically says, I can run this organization. I can take this from point A to point B and actually, develop, improve it, create the team behind it. Those are three different buckets and they're three different skills. And a lot of it is based on personality as well. So for you as an individual, you have to kind of say, okay, which bucket do I fall into naturally? Which one do I enjoy? And then you can either learn the other skills or you can partner up with other people. So I'll give you myself for an example. I had to grow up to learn how to be a leader. And I grew up and I had to learn that. I learned that from my parents. I learned that through formal studies. I learned that through the corporate world. The other and so the other side, which was natural to me, was the creativity. I'm a natural architect. I can create things. I can put things together. I can learn things. I can develop all whole kinds of stuff. You can say the wheeler and dealer, that's something that's just not me. It's not something that is natural to me. It was the complete opposite of what I am naturally. Making money off of people and all that kind of stuff, I have a tough time doing, but I've had to build those skills. And I to this day, I can admit that is not my best strong suit. If I really want to craft a deal, for example, like a partnership, when it comes to if we're going to buy or sell a business or even real estate, I have partners for that. They're the wheelers and dealers because I don't want to nickel and dime. I don't want to create those agreements. I don't want to be in that room and be like, okay, like grinding that person. That's just not me. But that's important for you to understand because which one falls naturally. And if you're not good at something, you can learn the other skills or partner up with other people. That is important to learn. So thanks, Nathan, because that was a good, you could say, segue of understanding. When a person understands that, they're going to be a better business owner and entrepreneur as a result.
So what are some of the, I'd like to approach this from two different directions, some of the internal implications of this and some of the external implications of this.
Yeah, I think the first thing as a leader is understanding that you as a leader, and people say, some people say we shouldn't have leaders, we should have an equal society or whatever that is. It doesn't work that way. Doesn't. Sorry, burst your bubble. Zappos tried it. Doesn't work. They tried to get rid of management positions and have team pods. It created chaos. And I think they've kind of come up with a quasi approach now that's somewhat working. But you always need a leader. You need a team leader. You need a business owner or leader, whoever it is, an executive team that runs the show. The important thing is that what this, you can say, group of people or individual as you, as a business owner, need to do is unify and create a vision for the organization. Because people need to be inspired. They want to work for a great organization. They want to work for a great leader. People don't work for a company. They work for the people within the company. You have to understand that. They don't care about XYZ Corporation. They care about the CEO of XYZ Corporation, the guy that's going to come around and say, hey, congrats on achieving that award, or hey, I want to give you extra praise for that. So you need to unify and create that, you can say, a vision for them. The second one is setting the bar high. Is you, again, we talked about self-integrity in the last episode, is you represent the organization as a business owner. You are basically, you can say how do I put this? I forgot the word, Nathan, but basically you're setting the standard, right? If you're not showing up at work on time, why would you expect your people to show up on time? Right. I'm not saying you need to come in early or work late. You can set certain standards, but if you tell your team you're going to be in at 8:00 and you show up at 8:30, that sets a certain standard, right? So, sorry, go ahead.
Or even just caring. I've been in business environments where the top people, it just is apparent that they don't care. They're there just to pick up a paycheck. And then that attitude spreads to everybody underneath them. They say to themselves, well, if Bob doesn't care and he's the person in charge, why should I care?
Yeah, and I speak very openly about this because when I coach business owners and I ask them one question: are your people an investment or a cost?
Mm,
And the answer will tell me everything about their culture.
yeah.
Everything. That simple question, that answer tells me every single thing about how that person operates. And I can go into that culture, and within 90%, I can predict what the culture is going to be like. And it's very true. If you look at your people as a cost, they will be a cost, and they will nickel and dime the organization. They'll leave exactly on time or early. They won't stay late. They won't put in extra effort if you ask them to, or even on their own. You have to see them as an investment. And that's where the next element comes in, which is really developing them as individuals. We take a look and we say that people want to just get paid. No, people actually want to learn and grow. That is probably the most important thing. If you have the right people in your organization, they will want to develop themselves. They want to, whether it's climb the ladder, or even if they don't want to accelerate in their career title, they still want to learn new skills. That's just a human natural thing that we're built to do. So you as a leader need to develop each person, need to sit down and coach them, or have a team or your manager, whoever it is, actually coach each individual in your organization and help them develop. And then the next step is to help the team as a whole develop. So if I use a sports analogy, and I like to look at Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan, for example. So, Phil Jackson spent time coaching each individual on the team. Let's just say, for example, Michael Jordan. He would spend time with him one-on-one, developing him. But then he also spent time with the team, showing them plays, because not only does the individual have to grow, but the team as a whole needs to grow in terms of how they work together, how they play together, how they improve. Here's one thing that I see a real lack of is an individual on a team may improve, but that doesn't mean the team's going to improve. That doesn't mean the performance of the team is going to improve. You want to make sure that the performance of the team consistently improves over time. The reason is because your people are a competitive asset and a competitive advantage. If your people as a whole don't improve over time, you become less competitive in the market space compared to your competition.
I've seen a problem in different businesses, especially when it becomes less of a mom and pop type business and more of a corporate controlled. The people making decisions are often home office, 3,000 miles away, where a lot of times when you only take the develop the team member approach rather than developing the team approach,
Mhm.
the team members like Michael Jordan end up being the ones that carry all the weight because there is no sense of a team, and the one guy that comes in or the one girl that comes in is a real superstar. They end up carrying all the weight, and the other people just show up and do their minimum, and because they don't see themselves as a team, because they don't feel like their business owner sees them as a team, it's real easy for them to just show up and give the minimum and let the other person do all the work. And I guess I wanted to know your insight or your thoughts on what are some ways that if a business owner is listening to this right now and they're saying, yeah, that's a problem I'm having, what are some insights that you have on team development or team building skills?
I think the first important thing is to take a look, and there's a number of, we have a process that we use with teams. The first one is to take a look at the leader. And if you don't have the right coach, your team's not going to develop. So you have to reflect upon yourself to say, am I being the right leader? Am I being the best leader? How can I improve and grow? That's the first approach. Then you take a look, and then you take a look and say, okay, do I really have the right people on the team? Because having the right people is so important. Even one bad apple can mess up the entire team. So the team dynamics depends on the right people. The third one is what I call the playbook. And what is a team playbook? Do you have a team playbook? 90% of organizations don't have a team playbook, which means that how am I going to conduct myself within the team? How is each individual going to conduct themselves within a team? How is a team going to conduct itself? So each person, you should sit down and actually with your entire team, every person on the team, huddle them together and say, hey guys, we're creating a playbook. What do we need to include in the playbook? What are some values that we need to live by? What are some processes that we need to have in place to ensure that, hey, look, when we're interacting with each other, that we're actually doing it effectively? For example, I'll just give you an example is if we're going to communicate, part of the playbook could be, hey, look, I'm going to send you an email, but I'm also going to send you a follow-up email the next day to make sure you actually understood the message, or walk over to your office to say, did you understand the directions I was given to you? If that becomes a process within your playbook, then you take away a lot of the ifs, ands, and buts, and it becomes a process. And I'm not saying you roboticize your team, but when you have processes within your team, you understand it. And Nathan, you can understand where I'm coming from right now. We talked about this prior to this episode, where we use a certain productivity tool for the work that my team does, and Nathan's on my team, so he uses it. And it streamlines a lot of stuff. We put tasks in there. We assign people the tasks. We put dates in there because that holds people accountable, and there's no gray area. Sometimes there is gray area, but it just clears all that fluff that teams, that gets in the way of teams. So to bring it back to the question that you were asking is really create a playbook, and then you hold people accountable, which is then one of the other items of being a good leader is you have to hold people accountable. Because if you let things slide, people will just continue the same old behavior. It's natural human tendency to let things slide. And that's with ourselves, as we talked about self-integrity, but also with other people. You don't want to let things slide. Again, you don't want to be nitpicky where you're like, oh, hey, look, you got back 1 minute late from your break. That's not the stuff that I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, hey, look, if you said you're going to deliver this task to me by tomorrow, that you actually deliver it by tomorrow. Or if you can't deliver it by tomorrow, you tell me before tomorrow that you're not able to deliver it by tomorrow. These are the simple accountability things. Now, the other thing that a leader needs to do internally is to remove obstacles from the team. So I get this quite a bit, is working with business leaders, again, and executives, where I will talk to their staff, I will talk to their team, and the business owner will say they're just not performing. These people don't care about their jobs, or they're slackers, or whatever it is. And I'll go and talk to them, and the people actually want to do the work. They want to do it effectively, but there's something stopping them from doing it effectively, whether they haven't been trained effectively, whether they don't have the tools to do it, or they don't have the knowledge, or maybe even the confidence, let's just say. It's your job as a leader to remove the obstacles from your team members, get it out of their way, because it's like taking away the excuses. The more excuses that you take away, A, they perform better, but B, you have a higher degree of accountability. Because how many times have you asked someone to do something, and one of your employees, for example, has said, I've been busy doing this task that you gave them before. So that priority thing becomes an issue as well, because the employees can come up with a ton of excuses. It's easy, but you just got to remove those obstacles, the legitimate ones, and make their jobs a lot easier. One additional point on that is that it's easy for us to give stuff to our employees, right? To say, hey, take on this additional task. What we have to understand, here's a good rule of principle that we've used and when we consult organizations, is if we're going to give something, an additional task to employee, we must first take a task away from them, meaning that we help them streamline a task or help them do it more efficiently so they have the time to do the additional task. So you remove an obstacle, then you give them some additional work. It works very well.
I think a lot of times employees can start to feel like, oh, they're asking me to run a marathon, but they just tied my shoelaces together. And then that causes resentment. And then that causes, if there is a bad apple on the team that's already kind of trying to poison the well, their negative attitude is a lot more quick to spread. And so, yeah, you've got to be careful about these things. I want to real quick just emphasize what you said earlier about Zappos. A lot of people have this utopian ideal of, oh, the workers can run the factory. But all of this stuff that you've gone through today, these are things that it takes a rare person to want to take on all these responsibilities, to want to actually be the person that says, hey, I'm going to hold myself accountable for making sure all of this works. Um, Expecting a team to do it by themselves without having someone who says, I'm going to put myself in the hot seat for this, is it's in my experience, it's been the same as what Zappos is experiencing. Is it doesn't usually work out. It's a rare person that's willing to step up and fill these shoes.
And as a business owner, I'm not saying that you have to be there all the time. That's not what leadership is about. It's having the systems or the place, or maybe you have a management team that does this. That's what I'm saying is you have to have, ultimately you have to be involved in all these activities, but the degree depends on the help that you have. So it's very important. And when you were talking, here's what I was thinking about was a symphony, right? A group of people basically sit. Why do they have a conductor? You would think that they'd be able to do all of that stuff themselves, but they still have a conductor. That's what came to my mind, because I'm like, it's pretty phenomenal that I didn't realize that a lot of these conductors get paid pretty darn good too. Like they make a killing for these big symphonies, but it's because they're able to bring the show together.
But if you don't know that, you look at him and you're like, all he's doing is waving the stick around. Why does he get paid so much?
Yeah, like drinking a couple of Red Bulls and just flinging his. Yeah, exactly.
So real quick, before we're out of here, you said that you had a couple of external things as well. Let's try to cover those.
Yeah, there's two external things. The first one is to represent the organization's brand. That is so important. So if your brand, your business is a certain way, you as the owner need to portray that. So if your brand is very professional, for example, and then you go out, you're dressed in like just socks and sandals or whatever that is. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying you got to represent your brand the way it is, because you can't represent one way and then expect your people to be a different way within the organization. It just doesn't work. So being consistent. The second thing is creating strategic alliances. Again, you can't do this by yourself. If you try, you will succeed, but it's going to take you a lot longer. So build strategic partnerships. Be a leader out there where people look at you and say, I want to do business with that guy. I want to do business with his business. I wonder how we can partner up. I wonder how we can create partnerships. Because when you add one and one, it doesn't become two, it becomes a threefold effect, right? So the more people, I'm not saying go out there and find 10 business partners. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the more people in your strategic circle, the more effective you will be, the more leverage you will have, and your business will accelerate that much faster.
Absolutely. So we, again, just crammed a whole bunch of information into a 20-minute episode. If people want to check out more like this, first of all, I recommend going back and listening to this one again. But if they want to check out more episodes, where are the best places to find them?
Yeah, check out YouTubeformen.com and themailpodcast.com. And before we send them off, Nathan, I think we still might have this podcast episode is going to be released right before the book launch. So I want to let you know that if you want to get a free digital copy today, go and text free to the number 888-210-5566. That's free to 888-210-5566. December 1st, the book will be dropping, and we won't be able to give you a copy at that time, but if you can text right before then, we absolutely will.
Awesome. All right, man. Until next time, we will catch you later.
Thanks for the great episode, man. This has been great.
All right.